Hello, everyone, and welcome to the It's My Time show. I'm your host, David Andron, the national recruiter for My Time Sports. Along with me is James Gamble, the owner of the Global Scouting Bureau. We're here with episode 4. Welcome aboard, James.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Good to be back.
Everyone, we're a couple days late. We usually try to put our shows on the 1st and the 15th, but this episode we wanted to wait a few extra days because there were some big rule changes. We were waiting on confirmation from the NCAA that passed a couple of days ago, and we want to kind of touch on those rule changes that really help influence our episode this week. So, James, you want to kind of talk about some of those rule changes that we know about now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that's going to play out in it. One of the big ones I know that you're referring to is the one-time transfer with no penalty, basically, that came down by Division One, and it's going to have some strings attached. I think it's going to start going crazy in about a week from today. About the 28th. A lot of what it's really going to do is get a lot of players, and when I say a lot, I'm predicting 2,500. 3,000, 4,000 players in the portal this year, which is going to be just, it's very new to the industry.
Great.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy for sure because, you're going to have a mix of, some players that aren't happy trying to move on, as well as some players that are, at smaller schools that are successful, trying to move up and advance to better opportunities. So it's going to be a lot of chaos for a little while.
Well, I think we both talked to coaches. We've spoke to guys even in the SEC that some of their recruiting right now is going to be on pause until this happens, and they're going to recruit the portal, which means, just some examples. I'm not going to use school names, but you could be at a mid-major and you're having a phenomenal year as, let's say, a sophomore. Well, all of a sudden, you might be able to upgrade your program legally, ethically, by saying, yep, here it is. I'm going into a Power 5 environment, which in the past you didn't have that opportunity. You would have had to go to sit out for a year. Or you would have had to go to a junior college prior to going to another 4-year school. So there's some positives, I guess, you can look at. But along with those positives, there's also the negatives, because now, a lot of these kids that maybe they weren't playing at the Power 5 or big schools or anywhere, but now they get to say, you know what, I'm going to leave and go somewhere where I can play. So this musical chairs, if you will, is going to be, I think it's going to be the first of its kind. I think it's going to be like the Wild West. There's going to be a lot of movement.
Yeah, the rule passed on the 15th, but there's still a few more things that have to happen. I think, it's supposed to go final around the 28th or so, but there's still some things that are in the works as far as the rule change goes. So, I think after everything's finalized, you'll start to see a lot of movement into the portal. And, it's going to affect a lot of the young players as well. Because, like you said, we've had a backlog of, freshmen and sophomores and, incoming players.
Well, let's even describe that. A lot of people may not really understand what the portal is and where it really comes from. I guess it's probably about its 3rd year now. It's not a place where players just go. It's not an online place for parents and players to go and look and see. What this really started off as is, it was truthfully like a runoff rule where colleges wanted to be able to push a guy out that wasn't performing at the standards they wanted. Because what a lot of parents and players don't understand is it is kind of like a business. When a coach gives you a scholarship, there's an expectation. And when you're not living up to the expectation, they used to be held to where they couldn't do anything. So their scholarships were just tied up, and a player may not be performing at a level, and there was nothing they can do. So there was this runoff rule, so to speak. It kind of changed because I'm not politically correct here, but that's the truth on where the rule was coming from. And now it's become where both the teams have the ability to put guys into the portal to look for, let's call it free agency. If we were talking professional baseball, they can move on. Also, players can be unhappy. Things could have changed. Circumstances could have changed. Like with COVID, they were recruited into an environment where they might have been going with 3 or 4 people to compete with for a job. And because of the holdover year, they might have had 8 or 9 people competing with them. Well, that's not what they really signed up for. So now they have the opportunity to put their name into a portal, okay? And other people can now recruit them, make contact with them, communicate with them, where in the past you weren't allowed to. It's not as if A lot of parents I talk to, when they have a kid, they figure that, well, why didn't another school just call them? Well, they can't. At the professional level, that would almost be tampering with someone's player, but it's also coaches won't do it. It's unethical. If I'm in a school, I'm not going to contact your players. If you're a college coach, I'm not going to do that. It's unethical of me to do such while you're playing. You might want to comment a little bit more because I know you've dealt with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the past couple of years, the portal's been around, but in order for them to enter the transfer portal, they had to go and get a release from their coach and a permission to contact other schools and things like that. Whereas now they don't have to have permission. They can just go to compliance and say, I want to be in the portal. And, there's nothing that coach can do to, stop them. It doesn't mean that you have to transfer into the portal. But the coaches do have the right to pull your scholarship if you do enter. There's a lot of things to consider before running and jumping into the transfer portal, or before you want to take that risk to try to move somewhere else. I mean, again, the grass isn't always green on the other side. So
sure. I think what you just said though might need a little clarity. While they're in school, the coach does not have the ability to remove their scholarship, which is part of why. This is not just for baseball. It's dealing with the other sports. It allows that student athlete the ability to put their name in the portal, and while they're on scholarship, start communicating with other schools. But just know that once you put your name in the portal, where you're currently at the end of that term, you're probably not going to be asked to return or at the same rate. So There's risk when you do it. And I don't think enough people look at the actual of what's going to happen versus the theoretical. Let's be realistic. If you're a college coach and all of a sudden, within 3 days of you putting your name in the portal by compliance, they've already talked to your coaches. Hey, there's a strong probability. I'm not saying possibility, probability that cat don't like you a whole lot right now. Okay. That would be like you work for a company. You told them, hey, I'm out of here, but you got to keep paying me until I find another job or the end of, X contract. Yeah. Realistically, it's going to ruffle some feathers. You may want to think about things before you do it. Get some advice. I'm hoping that players don't say like, oh, I'm just unhappy. My coach is a bad guy and I'm leaving, and they rush to the portal because they're going to find themselves not playing. Right. And that goes back to some of this rule as it's rolled out. I believe the date, I'm not sure. I believe you have to be in place by July 1?
July 1, correct. For baseball, it's July 1.
Right. So, and more is going to continue to come out in the weeks to come on how it's actually rolled out. But let's put that into a perspective. Every Division I coach has not been out recruiting. Why? They've been locked down. It's been a dead period.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, every player you have is allowed to leave if they want to. Oh, and right now, unless changes happen, you're going to be able to start recruiting on June 1. But you find out July 1, some of your players are left, so you got money in your hand. Who do you go to get? So I think that's where this whole, junior college players, if you're a 2019, a 2020, or a 2021 graduate, next year in junior college, you're a freshman. So think of that. If they recruit 20 guys a year, that's 60 players that qualify as a freshman.
Right.
But the guys that want to move on, the Division I coaches, and it's not just Division I, Division II as well, they're not out there recruiting because they can't. And then they find themselves July 1 with money in their pocket, which they didn't think they would have. But now they have to go get players that they haven't been looking at because they couldn't. So, this is going to be a very unique summer. I know the guys at the top of the NCAA and junior college, they make rules. They're trying to make everybody happy. There is no making everybody happy.
Right.
I know I'm the bad guy here. I was against to give everybody a year back from day one because of supply chain buildup, which it's happening. If you're a 2021 getting ready to go somewhere, good luck. It's going to be tough. So when you go to college, whether it's a 4-year or a 2-year, you better be ready to work your tail off. Everybody thinking that they have made it, like I'm really good, I'm committed to here. When you step on campus, man, they got a lot of guys and in the same role as you, and only the best ones are going to make it. Right. So you better be ready to work, ready to grind. And if you don't love it, you're out, man. You're going to be one of those guys that decides to just go to school and, my coach screwed me. I already hear the excuses coming out. You better love the game.
Yeah, it's tough enough as a freshman going in to a new atmosphere, getting away from home, whole lifestyle change. Now you have 17 and 18-year-old freshmen going in with 21-year-old freshmen,
Yeah.
17, 18, 19, and 20 and 21 is all freshmen. Uh, you're competing against guys that are 24 years old as juniors and seniors. I mean, it's a big, big age difference. And I think it's going to be a culture shock to a lot of players, especially the young players, when they try to step up and compete at that level.
The only positive that I'm taking from it is I think players from day one should have been advised to find the right place for them, not always to look for the name on the front of the jersey and it's got to be Division I, it's got to be Power 5, it's got to be, really? It doesn't have to be. I know that. I mean, you've got guys in the major leagues made $20 million a year that have never stepped on a Division I campus, but kids today are going after facilities, they're going after gear, they're going after who's hot. They're not going after where am I going to get an opportunity to be a student athlete? Because when they get there, I always hear them say, well, I'm going to outwork the other guy. Well, they got 35 of those guys saying the same thing. And some of them have history with that program. Good luck beating them out. Okay. It's going to be a dogfight. And they're still, with all these rule changes, they still only roll out 9 guys in a game or 10 with a DH.
Right.
So you got 25 guys sitting. You better make the right choice. And I think what's going to happen is more guys are going to take opportunities to go to some Division II schools, and they're going to love the environment. They're going to go to some Division III, some NAIs. So every program should look at, enhancing their program, bringing in the right guys, giving opportunities, and maybe we can get over all of this, the labels that we're putting on players. I mean, I went through it as well. I was wrong. Your brain thinks I want to be D1 or I'm not good. That's simply not accurate.
A lot of the players that we represent and help find a place to play in college. I mean, we try to educate them, educate their families on, the difference in the different levels and, finding the perfect fit. I mean, a lot of our clients are players that are transferring from Division I because out of high school they chose to, they wanted to be a D1 player, and then they go and compete against 9 other left fielders and they can't compete with that. So they regret it and want to transfer after. So, do your research and your homework early and, humble yourself a little bit and try to make a good decision for getting on the field as quick as possible, because it doesn't matter what jersey you put on. It's not fun to sit the bench. I'm not saying that you don't have to sit the bench at times. I mean, you need to, learn as you sit and earn your way. But if you're going to go and sit for 3 years before you get to step on the field, that's a tough situation for anybody.
No doubt. Well, I think it goes back to part of the problem. And I deal with it every day. We've still got to get better. I've still got to get better at communicating this. But a lot of the parents and the kids, they're reading the internet. I see the companies out there. All they do is tweet, 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 tweet. Well, good luck with that tweeting, okay? Because there's not a whole lot of information. They're doing the cliff notes, and then people are buying into it. And that's why they're laughing. They're making money hand over fist. They think they can sit behind their computer and not have to go out and do stuff, not pick up the phone and advocate for the kid, not educate the kid. And I hear them saying, well, it's their responsibility. Well, I think it's our responsibility. So, my goal is to continue to help the parents and the players understand that pick the right program. How many times am I watching guys and I say, oh, he was this ranked and that ranked. He goes to a school and gets cut in the fall. He gets cut in the fall. And he was an early commit. You know how bad that is? I mean, you're talking about the 3rd or 4th ranked guy that can't make it through a fall. No, that was poor recruiting. They were recruiting the hyped up player. People weren't educating the player that it wasn't a good fit. And not all fits are good. You got to look into it. You got to get beneath the surface. That's why I like what you're doing. You educate the families. You're talking to them. You're being able to look at rosters and make good decisions. That's all I think anybody should want to do, is make sure they have the facts, not just, hey, I committed and I'm going to be a shortstop in the class of 21 with 7 other committed shortstops in the class of 21. Well, good luck with that. Good luck.
That's why we get into the topic this episode is the value of junior college. I have so many players that I try to tell, take advantage of the junior college system. Totally different today than it was when we were in junior college. Before, just anybody could, if you were breathing, you could play junior college. But now they're academically successful. You know, they got to graduate so many players. I mean, most of your credits are transfers to your 4 year school when you're done. It's a totally different academic environment than it was when we were there. Um, and the baseball and the developmental program is higher. I mean, I see a lot of kids that aren't ready to go to Division I and Division II out of high school, and you know, after a year to a junior college and eating right on a good workout program, they put on 20 pounds and you know increase their arm strength, increase their speed, and you know then they are ready to go into a big time school. So you know, I highly recommend the junior college route for a lot of players.
Absolutely, I agree. In fact, in our scouting, at times we go to a game with a blank sheet of paper, and we do that intentionally. Yes, we know some of the players, but we want to scout from a and not let peer affirmation influence us because we've heard this guy committed or not. And there's times that or reports come in and we're looking at a guy at the end of the game that the world has said he's committed to X college, this Division I school, and our report says he's a junior college player, meaning his tools are there, but he needs to go and play.
Right.
Okay. And he's going to have an opportunity at the junior college. And oftentimes junior colleges are misrepresented and people look down upon them as if English 101 at a junior college is different than English 101 at a 4 year college. It's still English 101. It's still going to be up to the student athlete to attend the class and make the grade. He's responsible. If he dives into the junior college, all of his classes will transfer. If he takes basket weaving, it doesn't count at a 4 year. It's not going to count at a 2 year. Okay. But it also, for a lot of students going from, let's look at average class size of high schools. You're looking at the majority of high schools are under 1,200 people that attend. You know, that now all of a sudden when you go to a big 4 year school with 20,000 people, it's a big environment. That's a big step. And if you're not academically gifted and if you can't manage time properly, a lot of times these junior colleges provide you a stepping stone. So it's an intermediate between the small that you might have come from and the big that you may end up with. And it allows you to learn how to manage time because in my opinion, the biggest thing you do when you go to college is you have to learn how to manage time. You don't have mom and dad saying, wake up, let's go to class. Now you're directly accountable and responsible. So if you can manage your time, college is not harder than high school. It's now on you because nobody's waking you up, telling you to study. You have to manage your time to be successful. Those that do it, they are successful. So,
Right. And you know, a lot of times I get phone calls from parents and you know questioning the competition level of junior college, and I'm gonna tell you, some of these junior college conferences are as good as 4 year conference. You know, Panhandle Conference is a lot of draft and follow guys. I mean, there's different levels at you know of junior college, but really good players that go to the junior college route.
no doubt about it. You know, I've recently went into Texas to watch games. I've been into Mississippi, Alabama, the Panhandle of Florida. It's been a couple years since I've went up to Kansas to watch them, but I often see people talk down about different groups, and I'm going, well, if I look at the players on the field, do I see 90 plus at junior college games? Yes, I do. Do I see catchers that can have a 2-flat pop time or better in junior college? Yes, I do. Do I see guys that can hit home runs? Yes, I do. Okay, they don't always have the depth of a 4 year school, but a lot of guys are just as good, but they're playing rather than being at a 4 year school. And like you said, working while they're waiting and getting little snidbits of playing time because they're not really ready. The ones at junior college, they're playing. Now, there are still guys that aren't playing at junior college. And, you know, my experience is they'll start blaming things. I should go here, there. No, that's where you have to work hard. It's up to the individual athlete to earn his keep no matter where you go. Blossom where you're planted. But at a junior college, you know, you're competing against 2 years worth of players normally. You know, we're moving into the exception to every rule because 28 teams are going to be a sophomore next year in junior college. You know, I don't understand how parents are thinking. You know, if you're going to be 22 years old and in junior college, you've lost what student athlete meant. You better have that associate's degree. And, you know, you're starting 2 degrees while you're in junior college. I don't even know how they do that. You're there for a while. But from a baseball standpoint, Dave, a lot of times you can't tell the difference in the athlete. It's the environment or the stadium's as nice. No, they're nice, but they're not bringing in, you know, 2,500 people to a game or 1,000 people to a game. But I'm seeing I saw 93 to 95 out of a Parrish right-handed pitcher last week. I mean, my radar gun didn't change. I'm at Division I games. You are too. I'm not seeing 93 to 95 out of a lot of the college players at a four-year school in Louisiana. So, the ability's there. You can't knock it. And I think it's a great opportunity, especially for those players that want to go and play. If you're going to be happy practicing every day, going to the games, putting on your uniform and watching it, okay. There's some four-year schools for you. If you want to compete and play, you better consider that. Or you better make good decisions at the schools you're going to. You better have those advocates that are around you that are educating you and your family on here's the realistic opportunity you're going to have when you're young at that school. Because the college game, and you can talk about this, the college game is just so drastically faster. The pace of play. And sometimes it feels slow when you go out there because they have bad games too. So I understand the parental perspective of, hey, I'm watching a game and it was 12-10. This is bad baseball. Trust me, I watch a lot of bad baseball, but there's still good players that are inside of this bad baseball that guys make errors. Yes, but the speed of the game in general is significantly more advanced at the college level. And when we say that, we're not talking about just 4-year. We're talking about college in general. The pace of play, the speed of the throw, how fast guys are running, the strength of the athlete. You can't put high school baseball in that same category.
If you're willing to play junior college baseball, there's so many opportunities out there. There's so many junior colleges across the country. Got to understand a lot of the players we have here in the South, they want to stay close to home, and that limits their opportunities because there's only 4 junior colleges in Louisiana, and then Mississippi can only have five now. Yeah, correct. And then Mississippi can only have 4 players from out of state on their roster, not 4 out of state scholarships, 4 players on their roster out of state altogether. So, it just limits the opportunities to stay close to home. There's so many good schools. We have a lot of players that go up to Kansas. We got a few that go to California to play. There's a lot of opportunities if you're willing to travel and get away from home.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that we do a lot with you guys is we've seen the benefits of what my time can do with a shotgun. I mean, it's not possible for, myself or our company to call 2,000 colleges every day. We're doing too much. So it's a lot easier for us to take those college coaches and say, hey, please go to my time. We're going to send our stuff to them. We're going to work hand in hand with them. Let's network for the player, which gives the player more options, which then creates more value for that individual athlete. Well, Dave, one of the things that I like about my time is that, it's focusing on 2,000 colleges nationwide, maybe more than that now. But the number one thing that a recruiter nationwide, the number one question they ask to a player is who else is on you? Okay, that's their number one question. When an athlete says nobody, well, they have no value. Okay, so the individual, that coach that's asking us, nobody's on him, his value is down. But when that kid is through my time and he goes, well, I've got 5 or 6 different schools that are following me, communicating with me. I haven't committed yet because I'm keeping my options. He has value. Okay. So my time creates value for that player that nobody else is doing that. Okay. It's actually creating a value. So those players that are, some of them, I think they should look at the options to go away, change of scenery, change who they are. Redefine themselves. When I went to junior college, I was at one level. When I left junior college, I was at another. They need to go and do that. You've got a son. I don't recognize him because when he went into the junior college environment, he was one athlete. You fast forward 2 years, he is 20 pounds heavier, maybe more. He does run faster, throw harder, hits better. I mean, so much happened in that 18 to 20 time frame. Not everybody is going to peak at 16 years old, which is the early committed guys. Some guys commit and they end up being that black swan. They end up developing in their 20s, 22, 23. That's where they're peaking out. They haven't fully matured yet. And so many players that I see, or if they continued working, they're going to make it, but they're not there yet. Some guys don't shave until they're 19 and 20. where other guys shaved in 6th grade. Okay. So there's so much that's individual. And when those parents are looking at it, because what they always do, Dave, and I know they do the same thing to you, is they've read the internet, little Johnny in another school, they know him, he's committed. So they have anxiety out the yin yang. Okay. They're so worried about committing because the world has put out just enough information. They have anxiety about an arbitrary date in November. And if they didn't do it, they think the whole world ends. No, it doesn't end. You can commit in December. You can sign then. January, February, March, April, May. There is no you have to. Okay, you have to make the grades academically. You have to continue to work hard. I mean, those are you have to do it. But there is not a if I don't do it by this date. We've had players that have signed in August. Think of that. Of the year they're attending college. It's rare. Yes, that would be considered late. But parents today, they're thinking it's late because their kid is a senior and he hasn't committed. The early signing period, again, early, once it starts, it no longer closes. So there's not like a window and then it shuts down. It used to be that way, but not anymore. Now they could change that. But as of right now, once they open it up, you can sign your letter of intent in November, December, January, February, March. There's not I have to do it by this date or the world thinks I'm not any good.
A lot of them are panicking right now. I get a lot of phone calls where, hey, we only have a few games left. The high school season's almost over and we haven't gotten any offers. They got to realize is, like you said, all the changes that are about to happen in May and June are going to open up so many doors. So a lot of coaches are, sitting on their hands right now. They're not doing a whole lot of recruiting just because they're going to have some transfers and, they're going to have to fill the needs, late in the summer. And, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. So if you're a senior, relax and take your time. Don't panic. There's a lot of opportunities out there.
July is going to be my prediction. And I mean, because we archive these, we can look back and see how wrong I am. But my prediction is July of this year is going to be just a massive signing period, which it's never been in July. It's always been earlier. I think it's going to be massive because of the trickle effect that's going to take place when the portal actually gets going. And we've talked about it a little bit, but what tends to happen is while you're playing at a school, you don't put your name in the portal. You wait till the end of that season, right around it. So a lot of these guys are going to be putting their names in the portal end of May, beginning of June. Okay. People are going to see their name. They're going to go after them, which now they have to push somebody else. So they're pushing somebody else in the portal. There's this trickle effect that's going to take place. And it's going to go all the way from 4-year schools into the 2-year schools. As we're continuing to get out there and talking with the college coaches, a lot of them are uncomfortable with what's going to happen. They have players that, the current junior colleges, they have 2019s, 2018s, 2019s, 2020s already. And they've got guys they want to bring in and they're looking at what am I going to do with my guys? Well, a lot of the guys from junior colleges have not yet moved on. Why? Because there's been a dead period. So nobody's been able to see them. And every player always wants to be at the highest school they can be. That's why I go back and think at times this may work out to where people have to be more realistic. They have to look in the mirror rather than out the window and start saying, this is a good place for me. It may be Division II. It may be Division III. It may be NAI, but it may be the best choice you ever made to go and play and be a student athlete. If you're going to be a major leaguer, they're going to come find you. Trust me, I'm around these guys every day. They're going to drive to the end of the world to go see the guy that throws 95, okay? It doesn't matter if he's at big school, small school, or somebody's backyard. They're going to drive to go see that guy that throws 95, hits bombs, runs like a deer. They're going to come get you. That's their job.
Right.
So I'm hoping that people will be patient. And I know that's tough to say because man, the anxiety starts and then the parents have it and they want you got to enroll, you got to get admitted, it's going to happen. I just have a strong belief that this summer you're going to have a July frenzy of players. Some of them are going to sign with Division I schools in July this year, which means 3 months ago they were telling everybody they're out of money. Watch what happens when the portal kicks in. They're going to have money in their hand and nobody to spend it on. And then they're going to have to jump and go find it because they haven't been able to get out and recruit. So I don't see that on the internet. There's no Instagram, no Twitter saying, everybody be patient. This is going to happen. So now hopefully you put it out there and they'll have a little bit on the internet telling them that relax, have a little faith. That's what you cannot see. Okay. It's going to happen. What the athlete should do is continue to work really hard, developing his tools, make sure his academics are in order. Okay. And then find the right program for himself. Communicate with those schools. I know through my time, the schools start following you. Then they start communicating with the players. Hey, player, build a relationship. Don't just think the coach calls you. Build a relationship. Once he's called you and has interest, pick up the phone a week later, call him, know something about his program. Don't make it all about you. Become likable. I mean, I hope that the athletes and their families do know that coaches are actual people. At some point, they're going to make a decision between player one and player two. They normally sign the player they like the most. Part of that like is the relationship that you can build, so he likes you. So players, do your homework. Find out who is the coach. Where is he from? What players are on the team? Have some dialogue versus just saying, hey, coach, I got 3 hits last night. I'm hitting 600 in high school. Don't matter, okay? Build a relationship. Find out how they're doing. Get some of their backgrounds. Gain the trust. That's my recommendation to the players and their families right now.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I can't express enough about be patient. I don't like to talk about my son very often, but since you brought it up, I'm just going to use him as an example.
Sure.
He was an undersized senior. That he was 146 pounds out of high school. I thought if he got to JUCO, probably 2 years of playing would be his limit. But called me right before they started the freshman year. He said, "Dad, look, coach said I can split time at second and third base, or I can redshirt." They had a senior second baseman, a senior third baseman. I told him, I said, "Look, I would recommend you redshirt and you work hard and see what happens." And he decided to do that. So like I said, it's tough to sit the bench, but it was just the right time for him to sit back and work harder. And he sat out. And he ended up transferring to the outfield. He never played outfield before in his life. It was all conference as a redshirt freshman the next year in center field at Dodge City Community College, and then he led the nation in Division II in stolen bases last year as a sophomore. And he's still having a successful year as a sophomore now, and that's all because he was patient and he did the right things and waited his time and found the right fit. I mean, he had some opportunities to go to some Division Ones, and he decided to go to the JUCO route, to go to the Division II route to get on the field and perform. And if it wouldn't have been for that redshirt freshman year, that redshirt year, he wouldn't be where he's at now. I mean, it made a whole difference, and it was all because he was willing to be patient and wait his turn and do what he needed to do to get there. So, like you said, patience is huge. I can't express that enough.
Absolutely. And to your son, Drake's, to compliment him, he's changed so much since he was in high school that, I give all the credit to him, because a lot of the players I'm around, look, the junior colleges right now, everywhere I'm going, I'm hearing of guys wanting to transfer and they're freshmen. They're unhappy here, there. The reality is you got to blossom where you're planted. And Drake was able to look in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? There's more for me, but I got to get to another level personally. And I remember watching him take batting practice, and I was looking at you thinking, wait a minute, this dude's now hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He couldn't hit it to the fence. Now he's throwing, and it's got some life on it. It's got some carry. And, you take out the radar gun and it's over 90, and you're going, oh my gosh, because it wasn't just a year earlier, but he dedicated himself. So, I'm a big fan of your son just because of that. It's not because of you or me or it's because of the work that he puts in, both physically, but also understanding of the game, which I give him a lot of credit for being mentally strong. And that's maybe something that you want to touch about, not just with Drake, but players in general. That's one of the things that, I see going on, is that players can't understand when a coach sits them and the why. They only look at it from their point of view. And I understand, I was that player at one time. The coach doesn't like me. It's a bad coach. I need to go to another program. There's this assumption that every program is going to be better than the one they're at. But ultimately, it comes down to that athlete understanding. You want somebody else to invest in you. You got to start off investing in yourself. Okay. You say the coach doesn't practice this. Well, why didn't you wake up in the morning, go get your work done? You're pushing blame onto somebody. But that's one of the things that I'm saying. And I know you're a middle coach. You do this, on the psychological standpoint. What do you tell athletes when they're always thinking that, my life will be better somewhere else. It can't be good here. Well, it becomes a trend that they're always looking for somewhere else.
Well,
What's your opinion?
you and I are we started writing a new book called The SWOT Analysis of Athletes. And, the SWOT is what big time businesses use, to get their evaluation of what their company is. So the SWOT analysis for athletes is, figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, and do an honest self-evaluation on yourself. I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have is, all these players, they hear all the things when they're growing up. Hey, you're the best, you're an all-star, you got all these rings, you got all these trophies. They don't have the ability to look in the mirror and give themselves an honest self-evaluation. And, they think, okay, well, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's the coach's fault. You know, it's not always the coach's fault. I mean, granted, your personality type may not connect with your coach. You got to figure out how to make that coach like you, how to make that coach want to put you in the field and out there to perform. And the mental side of it, I mean, it slows the game down. Like you said, the college and the professional level is so much faster than high school. And if you're not mentally prepared to be able to slow the game down mentally, it just blows by you. I mean, when you're not mentally prepared, an 85-mile-an-hour fastball looks 95. But when you're able to mentally train and get yourself in the zone and focus on visualization points and all the different things we work on, 95 looks 85. And it makes those players that are mentally prepared just explode and stand out amongst the average athletes at that level.
Sure. Well, and I think you're mentioning it. One of the things everybody talks about it, and we still see it done the opposite way, is that baseball is, more than half mental. Okay. It's more than half. But what does everybody focus on? Let me get a guy to flip balls to me in a cage, and that's going to solve my problem. It's not always the swing. Most of the time it's the preparation. The swing was just a result of, bad preparation, and you're seeing the results play out in front of you. I wish more and more players would dive into the mental understanding of the game. And that's what I love about the sport is it's a smart man's game. Okay. Baseball is an educated person's game. When you travel abroad, a lot of people think it's boring, but if you look at even Wayne Gretzky gave credit to the education behind baseball because every pitch, there's a unique difference of what everybody on that team could be going through. Well, players need to know all of this and it should be instinctive to them. But they need to know how to process it, take the information in. You and I have talked about it a lot. Some players, they will call and they'll say, yeah, the coach put me in the ninth inning against the closer throwing 93. Well, just that comment, it gives me the ability to go, wow, you looked at that from the wrong point of view. Hey, the coach, he called my name. I had the opportunity to go against this dude that everybody thinks is good. And when I hit it off the scoreboard, I became legendary. No, they're not calling me with that. They're already out before they went to the plate, built-in excuse that they hadn't been playing, and now they faced a dude. Well, I thought you were a dude. I thought you were going to. That coach could be thinking, let me go to him because I think he can. And all you did is told the coach he made the right decision to sit you in the first place. When he was actually calling your name to succeed, you're not mentally prepared.
Right.
And that's what I think you talk a lot about with the athletes on the mental side of the game. And when they're contacting you is how to prepare, not just in that game, but before the game, the day before, and how to create a process and a routine that you can repeat consistently.
For sure. I mean, the mental side of it is so important, and you got to be prepared before. I see a lot of players, even at the college level, they get on deck. And they're not even focused on the pitcher. They're not ready to hit until they actually step into the box. You got to get mentally prepared to hit before you even get on deck. But by the time you get on deck, you should be timing the pitcher up. But while you're in the dugout, you should be studying any tips that he may be giving away. There's all kind of tendencies and things like that you can pick up. As a scout, the one thing that frustrates me the most is seeing so many swing and misses on fastballs. I can understand you get forward on an off-speed pitch and things like that, but when you swing and miss over and over and over again on a fastball, there's something wrong with that picture. You're not mentally prepared. You're not seeing it, out of the hand correctly. Everybody wants to pick up the baseball out the box and things like that. No, I want you to pick up the spin. I want you to pick up the laces. I want you to know exactly what's coming at you every pitch. And if you're not mentally prepared to do that, you can't do that. You cannot hit at a high level if you're getting on deck circle and you're standing around winking at your girlfriend in the stands, or thinking about what you're going to eat for supper tonight. The job starts way before you step in the box, and actually, it starts before you even get to the ballpark. And if you don't have the right routines and the right procedures to do so, you're not going to be successful.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. And that's why more people, in my opinion, should get involved in the mental side of the game, not just the players. It's going to take time, but that's the new thing, is that people are starting to accept and endorse the mental training, okay, the performance training of the mind. Uh, and it doesn't just, I have a lot of the friends that I deal with that are college coaches, and it's not, they're still looking down at what you're doing in an industry, because you don't want to, as a male, you don't want to admit you have a weakness. You want to keep it all. You want to internalize it, compartmentalize it, and say, I don't need help. I can do this, because we're men. But I think it's actually going to continue to grow, where even the coaches are going to start understanding more of the mental side of when they make a decision, which could be right, all of the different effects that are happening through that player. Not just making a decision and saying that is what it is, but understanding what it's going to do several layers down. And some of this in the book that we're writing, and comparing it to businesses, you have low performers, middle of the road performers, and high performers. At times when somebody makes a decision, that middle performer could bring people down with him, or he could be pulled up. The same thing in baseball. When a coach makes a decision on a player, that player could bring other players, and they become cancerous, so to speak, toxic players, brings down the morale of the team, versus another player that learns how to understand where he's at, look in the mirror, know his role. And I see that a lot. Maybe it's because they're not communicated well, but I go and sometimes I see a player that hasn't yet accepted his role. Maybe he doesn't know what it is, but you have to know your role. It doesn't mean you want that role. You have to know it, accept it, be prepared for it, handle the job they're giving you. And if you continue to do it, your role may change, and I know in the next section, we're going to go into the who is that section. That's one of the guys that I'm going to talk about, is the guy that, is exceeding expectations and his role is changing. And I think that's very positive on a mental side and a physical side.
So many of them that can't handle the role changes because they're mentally weak, and they, as soon as their role changes, they panic. And we'll touch a little bit about that when we get to that section as well.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right. Well, we'll be right back. We'll take a commercial break, and we'll come back with the who is that section. Hey everyone, welcome back to the It's My Time show. I'm your host, David Angeron, along with James Gamble, Global Scouting Bureau. And now it's time for the Who Is That section. We go out and see players of all levels, high school, junior college players all over the country. We've been seeing some good ones. We can't put them all on the show, but one place you can see a lot of them is in our new My Time Sports magazine. We show top prospects in the high school and the college levels. So make sure you reach out and check out the new magazine if you want to see some of the top players in the country. James, you want to talk about a few that you've seen the last couple of weeks?
Sure. Well, what I'm going to do is talk about some of our scouts that go out, that work full-time for our company. They've been out, and one of the players, Isaac Leger of Sacred Heart of Ville Platte, of late, 4 home runs coming out of, I knew he was a big, strong kid, but when Austin, that works for us in Central Louisiana, went out and saw him, now the power is starting to show up. So I think he's going to start gaining some interest. One of the top athletes that very few people know about. He had some injuries that had set him back, but Kyron LeBlanc, he's a little bit older. He's a junior at St. Martinville, but there's not a lot of athletes with his tools. I'm talking a 6'3", right-handed pitcher that throws over 90, that hits the ball over 400 feet, that can really move. Quality football player, but in a baseball uniform, everybody that goes out first, they think, this guy is definitely a football player. Then if you see him at third base, make a backhand, throw 90 across the diamond, you say, oh, hang on a second. Then you watch him hit the ball out of the ballpark, and you're like, hey, hang on, this guy can play baseball. Then he gets on the mound and he throws 90, and you're like, what in the world is going on? So I think he's going to get more and more attention because he's a super good athlete. He deserves it. And, he's getting his life right. His grades are good. So I think positive things are going to happen. Ethan Judice, a 2024 from Hanson Memorial. Some people know his name. A lot of people don't, because again, it's a 2024, was up to 88 the other night on the mound. I mean, that's a big number for a freshman. That is not crazy big. He's got a lot of fast twitch, but it really comes out and he can really spin it. So right now I would say he's probably 5'9", 5'10", 155, maybe 60 pounds. They would want me to range it up, but I'm being real. He's young, but it works. That arm really works, and he's going to have a future in the game. Stays healthy, good student. And lastly, I'm going to bring up, one of my favorite people that now he defies everything that we talk about. He's an outlier. So when we wrote a book, we said, here's some of the baseline information that you want. Not this guy. I'm talking about Caleb Sarosky. He's at UNO. And we're talking about a guy that can just get it done. But when you look at him, I remember him from the recruiting process where people would see him and they would run to us and say, hey, look, how hard is this guy throwing? Because he's just dominating. It doesn't matter who he's pitching against. It can be all SEC players. And he's carving through them like a hot knife through butter. And I'm serious. They would come up and then find out that was 84. And they're like, oh, no. Well, guess what, guys? He's at the Division I level. He's carving like a hot knife through butter, including teams like LSU and Sam Houston. And I mean, really good teams. So he's the outlier because he can flat out pitch. Okay. He's an exception to most of the rules because what velocity does for people, it gives them a margin for error. But if you don't make mistakes, I didn't need to have all the velocity. But everybody's out there talking, and I see it, and I'm not against him. Let's throw hard. Let's throw hard. Okay, well, you can throw really hard, and if you throw it in a certain spot where their barrel is, it goes a long way, okay? If you look, he's now, I think he's got 5 saves for UNO. I think he's 4-1. This is a freshman now that went to Eunice, wasn't the go-to guy for them, but got his life right, works really hard, knows who he is. He goes out there and he can flat out compete. And is he going to get roughed up at times? Yep. But I see guys at other schools throwing 97 to 99 with a 7.5 ADRA because they don't have the mindset. They don't understand it. Where I'm looking at Sarosky, let's say 6 foot. We're going to call it 160, but I promise you he's under that right now. And he gets out there and he just competes his tail off. And it doesn't matter who he's going up against. You better come to play, okay, because he's going to compete. So my hat's off to him. I love when I see guys that defy what the normal is because he is a guy that can pitch at the Division I level or the Division II level or the Division III level or the NAI level or the junior college level. You could put him on Vanderbilt's roster. They won't believe this. He would win games for Vanderbilt. And I'm saying that as if they're one of the top schools in the country. Because he can pitch, okay? He don't throw 90. His stuff is average, but he can put it where he wants when he wants, and he can compete. So for a lot of guys out there, that ought to inspire you. Dive in, invest in yourself, become the best you can be. Not everybody's going to throw 95, okay? It doesn't mean you can't play this game. In fact, when I attend college games and pro games, I still see people defying odds. I see people not throwing 90 and competing at a major league level. They're the outlier, okay? Become the outlier. That's what I challenge everybody to do. And now, you can talk about some of your guys.
Yeah, I can second you on Caleb. I've seen him a couple of times, and he can just flat out pitch. I just love his command. I love the way he moves the ball around. You can just tell when he steps on the mound, he's ready to go. And now he's in the closer role, and he's tough. He's one of the best I've seen, and he flat out can. Best of luck to him the rest of the way. I'll talk about a couple of college guys that I've gotten to see the last few weeks. I'm going to start off with some Division II players. Nick Swanson is a pitcher at Northeast State University in Oklahoma. He's a redshirt freshman, and he was impressive. He's got lights out stuff. He's 91, 92. But not only does he have the velo, he has command of a big league slider and a pretty good curveball. So the 91, 92 looks 95, 96 when it comes through because his slider's 82 and his curveball 74, and he can spot it up anytime. He's 7-0 right now with a 0.85 ERA, And even though that's a Division II level, I've scouted the MIAA several times, and their pitchers and some of their hitters are as good as any D1 players in the country. So it's been good baseball up there. Another player I wanted to talk about is Jacob Buzide. He's from Canada. He plays at a Division II in Kansas at Fort Hays State University, and he had an awesome performance the other day. When I was watching him, he was 6 for 6 with a home run and several RBIs, and he can play infield and outfield. Just a scrappy player, hits from the left side, runs well. I like the way he plays the game, and he's a kid that has some opportunities. He's a sophomore as well, so no telling where he'll end up after his college career. And then the final person I want to talk about is from Sam Houston. I got to see Cothan Cowser play, 5-tool athlete. I mean, I think he's got 12 home runs right now.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said he's a stud. Yes, yeah. I'm seconding you.
Yeah, he can flat out play. I mean, he's one of the only 5-tool prospects I've probably seen this year. At the college level, he can just flat out play center field. He goes and gets it. He runs well. And I really like his stuff. And, I've been spreading his word around to some of the major league scouts that I still talk to. So, he's got a bright future ahead of him. And, I wish him the best of luck as well.
No, I think he's going to be a good one. So, outstanding job.
All right. Yeah. We'll come right back and we'll talk about, some final thoughts and some other things we want to talk about with the recruiting process that we have coming up in the future. Be right back. All right, welcome back to the It's My Time show with our final thoughts. First thing I want to do is talk about James. You got your new book out. I want to congratulate you on it. For all you college players that we've been talking about, that want to play at the next level, this book's called Getting Paid to Play, and it's all the information you need to play at the next level. With the draft being cut short and people are panicking about, not having opportunities to play at professional baseball, this gives you the inside look. There's a lot of opportunities out there other than just with the MLB. And, it gives you everything you need to know in this book. And James, I love it, man. It's an awesome job. And, hopefully it'll touch a lot of people's lives. So good job.
Well, I appreciate it. And, it was a lot of fun. And what it's taking is about 25 years of my life and running a company and being all over the world and being able to take that information and put it out there for the athletes. Because I even noticed that at times a major league team will contact us and say, look, this is the situation. Can you help? For me, I live in that world. It's not always going to be on ESPN. It's not always going to be the most widely known, but knowing the network and how to move players. I mean, we work in 23 countries where we're moving athletes in and out of them. And so many athletes want to continue and they don't know how to. And so I'm hopeful that they will take the time to read if reading is still a thing. If not, it's going to be tough because they have to find out where to go and how to get into European style baseball or getting into Mexico or Taiwan, Korea, Japan, where these leagues, independent ball versus being a free agent signing. There's so much that the players just don't know. And my goal was to make it where people could get their hands on it. So, thank you. And hopefully it'll do well.
It's good stuff. I highly recommend it to any, high school or in college player that, has aspirations of playing at the professional level. I mean, it has good information. Everybody else, guys, we have a lot of different things coming up over the summer. Junior college guys, make sure you check out our upcoming events because we're going to have some evaluation days and showcases over the summer that'll help, get you advanced into the 4-year schools because it's going to be challenging for you this summer with all the transfers going into the transfer portal. So you're really going to have the right people in your corner, and we can help you find some opportunities, and we'll have some events that you can come and show your tools, and we can get your information out to the right people, so we can give you some chances to advance past the junior college level. We'll also have some other events coming up as well for you younger guys. So make sure you check out mytimesports.com for our upcoming events and everything we have in the future. Any closing remarks, James?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on again. And, as we get to the end of the high school regular season, I think it ends this weekend. I'm kind of excited to see how the playoffs get started. You play the whole thing, the whole regular season. And for me, baseball starts on next Monday. Now it gets real. And, I get excited to go out there. I'm sunburned a little bit because the sun's finally popping out and it's getting to that time of the year where we get to see baseball on a daily basis. So I'm excited.
Well, thanks for being with us, James. And we'll be back next week May 1st will be our next episode, and we'll be on time this time. So, we don't have any adjustments. But glad you could join us, and we'll see you on our next episode.
All right, take care.